What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I know things are a little bit different here as far as the ambiance goes. I'm actually in my van, doing a little bit of traveling myself, but that doesn't deter me from providing some extra value here in the Denver area. Now, speaking of Denver, it seems like everyone and their mothers are investing in Denver these days. And I'm still gonna make content convincing people to do it because it's honestly such a beautiful city, and I do not want you to miss out on all the opportunities for the years to come by investing in the Denver real estate market. The thing is that the traditional way of investing in real estate is not the only option you have. You don't have to have a 6 to 12 month lease and have to work with that. Instead, you should actually invest in short and medium-term rentals going forward. And in this video, I'm going to be going over all of the differences and similarities between short-term rentals and mid-term rentals. So why am I bringing up these two strategies of short-term and mid-term rentals versus long-term rentals? It's mainly because I think you can make hundreds, if not thousands of dollars more per month with those two strategies rather than long-term rentals. So real quick, let's define what those differences are between short-term rental and mid-term rental. So a short-term rental is everything that you know and love about, let's say, Airbnb, bookings.com, Vrbo, and places like that, where the typical stay is less than 29 days and below. These short-term rentals are more regulated across the nation, and we're seeing more and more regulations pop up through legislation, especially here in Denver. I'm keeping a close eye on that, so if anything does happen, you're the first to know. And then going over to the mid-term rental strategy, you have places like Facebook Marketplace, Furnished Finder, even Zillow, where the typical stay is like 1 to maybe 3, maybe 6 months at a time. But it's not your typical long-term lease. Usually these mid-term rentals are more furnished, things are ready to go with plates, towels, beds, linens, art, decorations, and all that good stuff. So all they have to do is move in without having to worry about lugging all their furniture and personal belongings over to their place. It's for those people that want to stay without having to have that hassle. And so now with that out of the way, let's actually go into the pros and cons and differences between short-term rentals and mid-term rentals. Let's talk about the short-term rentals first. And Airbnbs have gained so much popularity over the past 5 years, and so many listings have hit the market over those past 5 years. People would rather have a home-like experience rather than a hotel where you have a kitchen, high-speed internet, and maybe even a backyard at the same time. And this is a real quick tip for you Airbnb hosters or future hosters. Make sure you have really high-speed internet. I feel like it's almost as important as running water these days. And also with Airbnbs, people want to have a cool experience, like an arcade room in the basement, or maybe a ping pong table, or a hot tub in the backyard. All of these are amenities that will prove to get you more profitability or more occupancy over the course of the listing's lifetime. And hotels can't always provide those amenities. I mean, let's say if there's a hot tub or a pool at the hotel, it's shared amongst all the dwellers of that hotel. And those are some of the differences between hotels and Airbnbs, but one similarity is that people usually stay at both of these locations for like 4 to 7 days at a time. I like to make sure my Airbnbs or my clients' properties or investment properties that are Airbnbs are in a prime location, and a lot of these hotels have done research for you. If hotels are in a certain spot, maybe you can have an Airbnb somewhat close by that people can have that choice between, okay, these hotels are in a great location, but now I can choose an Airbnb with a hot tub and a backyard for my dogs. For example, like my property is very central in Denver, just north of the Rhino area. It's like 25 minutes to Boulder, 11 minutes to downtown Denver, and 30 minutes to the airport. So people will pay a premium for that service or that location. The biggest reason why I want to operate it as an Airbnb is because I'm just making much more profit compared to if I were to operate it as a long-term rental. I mean, if I were to put it on Zillow or something like that as a long-term rental, I would only get about $3,000 to maybe $3,200 per month, versus short-term rentals, I'm making a lot more. And comparing that to June and July of 2023, I'm making so much more as a short-term rental than it is a long-term rental, because I'm making about $6,000 to $6,300 per month during those summer months. And that's not even including Vrbo, and a little asterisk here is that's just revenue. It's not profit. I mean, I still got the mortgage, cleaning fees, and all that good stuff. But if you're curious about all my numbers, hit me up. I would be happy to tell you what my experience has been as a short-term rental owner. And with that, I mean, it's not the easiest of strategies to use because you got pots, you got pans, you got utensils, towels that get dirty, things that break, and all that good stuff. And I would say just make sure you set aside some cash or some reserves to make sure that you're able to afford these things if they were to ever break. So it's not as passive, but it still makes me so much more money compared to a long-term rental. So it just makes total sense to me having it operate as a short-term rental. So I've done it myself, and I've had a bunch of clients that have their investment properties operate as a short-term rental. And if you're ever curious about it, please hit me up. I want to make sure you're doing all the right things prior to finding that short-term rental and making sure all the regulations are for you. I will help you out with all of that stuff. So all my contact information is down below. Make sure you go check it out and just shoot me a text. I will respond. And now on to medium-term rentals, the happy medium between short-term rentals and long-term rentals. No pun intended. This strategy caters to those traveling professionals. A lot of people that are traveling in and out of Denver just want to stay for 3 months at a time and don't want to lug around all their couches, their beds, and all that other stuff, and just want to stay for a shorter period of time than a long-term rental. And some of my investor friends have actually worked out relationships with insurance agencies where, let's say if someone has to move out of their home for remodeling or rehabbing their home, or something goes wrong with it, they have a place to stay in the meantime, and those insurance companies pay for their stay, which means they will probably pay top dollar for it. And if you are in good graces and you give them a good experience with working with you, then those insurance companies will keep wanting to work with you. I mean, they have a lot more clients that might need to move out of like their clients' homes and eventually go onto yours. I mean, as a referral base, be like, hey, we found this one midterm rental or this one property that would fit all of your needs and it's very similar to your home. Why don't you stay here? And that would be your home. And so these medium-term rentals are also furnished units just like the short-term rentals, but people stay way longer than just the 7 days on average that we're seeing on the short-term rental side. Like for example, traveling nurses, they stay for 3 to 6 months depending on the program, and they stay in Denver and they just want a place to sleep and eat, and then eventually they just go to work for 12 hours out of the day. And then you're set. Like, they're not going to be staying at home partying. I mean, it's not like they have too many friends here, I assume. And so if I were to change my short-term rental into a midterm rental, I would anticipate about $3,600 to $3,700 per month, depending on the property, but that's just my property in specific, with a 4-bed, 2-bath, a basement, all that good stuff. Yeah, it just makes a lot of sense, like if I ever wanted to make it a midterm rental. And the best part about midterm rentals is that you don't have to worry about regulations, because with them staying 30 days or longer, it completely avoids all of these regulations and legislations that just put that ban hammer on short-term rentals. And now I'm going to go into some commonalities here with actually managing the short-term rentals and midterm rentals. So there's some applications and platforms out there that I think you should definitely hear about, do some research on, and see if it's best to operate your listing with these platforms. The first place I want to recommend is Turno. That's Turno, which is a place where you can collaborate with other cleaners and have your schedule on Airbnb or those midterm rental places sync up with their calendars so that you're not missing a beat. And it's pretty great. There's actually a rating system for these cleaners that are on the platform, and there's just a full-on database of cleaners that would be able to help you out with your listing depending on their location. I mean, it's just a one-stop shop, and there's a little fee per transaction if you were to pay a cleaner that way. But I mean, it's all worth it for that peace of mind and knowing that they get that automatically updated in their calendar if anything were to change. Of course, results may vary. I mean, depending on the cleaners and how they operate, make sure you vet them appropriately and you meet them in person as well. And the second application that I would highly recommend is Price Labs. It's a great opportunity for you to make sure you optimize the pricing of your listing without having to lift too many fingers. And before I get into the pricing tool, Price Labs, make sure you do not have on the smart pricing tool on Airbnb. I mean, Airbnb wants as much occupancy as possible, so if you're increasing occupancy, you are lowering the price per night. So Airbnb wants that higher occupancy, so you're not going to get as much per night, which is why I don't recommend you use that tool within Airbnb. And while I'm on that same vein, Airbnb does allow 30+ day stays at a time. You can restrict it and toggle on or off 30-day stays or more, or have it as 29 days stay or less, or all of the above, which, it depends on what you want and what your strategy is with your property. So Price Labs will factor out so many different things just to price it accordingly. For example, is there a holiday? Is there a big event going on? Is it a weekend versus a weekday? Are there days in between stays that if you were to lower the price, people would want to stay? So all of that is a factor with all within Price Labs so that you can get people in there. And there's so many discounts and customizations that you can do with Price Labs in order to increase occupancy if that's something you want. For example, if someone's staying for 10 days or 14 days versus just a week, you could give them a 2-week discount if they were to book for that long, increasing your occupancy and still maintaining a pretty high average daily rate. And lastly, the third platform that will definitely help you out in your short-term rentals and midterm rentals is Hospitable. If you're worried about inquiries or not answering people as soon as possible, I think Hospitable is just your answer, because you have automatic responses for people that book, that inquire once they check in, as soon as they check out, or 24 hours before they check out. You can have all these automated messaging systems and then have it integrated into Airbnb from Hospitable. It's amazing how much time Hospitable has saved me. I mean, I don't have to worry about always being on my phone to make sure I get that 100% check-in rates or respondence rate. You don't have to worry about all that stuff because Hospitable does it for you. And that's especially if you want to be a superhost. And superhost comes with all these bells and whistles along with it. Just do your own research on that. And if it's something that you're just not keen on or don't need to do, either way, you want to respond to these people as soon as possible. And that's the beauty of real estate investing. There's so many choices, so many options, and you have complete control over all of them. So don't worry about, hey, if someone else is doing it this way, you could do it a different way. So with that being said, this is such a good way for you to get started using that short-term rental or mid-term rental strategy. Hopefully this has helped you along the way. And so now that you know the differences between the two strategies, now you got to know where to invest next, which is the next video that you should watch. It's one that I've done a couple weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago. It's where to invest in Denver. Make sure you go check it out. It's everything that I would recommend for house hackers, investors, and everything in between. And I am a huge advocate for buying here in the Denver area. I myself am always looking for the next best thing, the next property to buy here in Denver. And if you're ever curious about it, or if you want some help, or maybe just a sounding board to walk through all the questions that you have, hit me up. All my contact information is in the description below. I would be happy to help you out. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next week.